Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back into another episode of the UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I am your host, Dan DeWitt, and I'm so excited to be back. I hate the off season here where I only do once a month podcasts. It just feels like so long from when I do one podcast to getting back behind the podcast here. And yeah, it's just too long. I don't like it. So I'm glad to be back. I'm excited. The season is coming. It's so close here. In this episode, we are going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking about my predictions for each player on the team, what we can kind of expect for them, or what I expect from them, and kind of some things I'm worried about for the players and things like that. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for supporting the podcast. The numbers through the off season have continued to grow, which just kind of blows my mind that so many people are listening and sharing and stuff. So podcast is doing well, and I'm ready to even ramp it up more for this season and do some more things. But we'll talk about that kind of towards the end of the podcast, I think. Before we jump into the player predictions, just a couple of kind of updates and happenings around the UNC Hoops basketball team. We talked about the coaches and administration meeting with the NCAA last month, and it happened. Nothing has happened since. We're still waiting there. Not much to update you on. Not even really any comments from Roy or Bubba or anything about how they felt they went or anything like that. So absolutely nothing to update you on there. If you missed it, and shame on you if you did, if you're a Tar Heel fan, but the players and coaches, I guess, received their ring at halftime of the Louisville, North Carolina football game, and it was a awesome ceremony. Past champions came and presented the players with their rings. Videos up on YouTube. I don't know what this website is. If you go to Go Heels, I think they probably have the video as well. But always search. You can go back in my Twitter or search Twitter, and you should be able to find it. But just, I mean, you can't help but get a little teary-eyed watching. I mean, it's just an amazing ceremony and awesome for those guys. Feel bad for Marcus and Bryce on top of that because of what they missed out on. I can't even imagine being those guys. Like, you have to be happy for the guys. They won. They got their rings. Speaking of which, those rings were huge. But Marcus and Bryce were so close, like right there, and like, oh, that could have been us. And it's got to be just, it's gut wrenching, like literally hurt your gut if you're them. Like, I feel bad for them, but it was an awesome ceremony. Those guys, relished in it, and as they should, well deserved. Also, just recently, I guess yesterday, as I'm recording this, Monday, the 18th of September, just yesterday at the Carolina Panthers home opener, Joel Berry and Luke May were the drum ringers, bangers, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a Panthers fan, but I guess that's a big tradition they have. And so they were the drummers, maybe is the best way to say it, for that game yesterday. And I think the last thing before we jump into stuff is the full schedule is out for the Tar Heels. All the dates and times for the games, at least the ones that we can know, are out there. So you can look up that. Next month, we will be doing the predictions podcast. It's kind of become a big thing. If you've been following the UNC Hoops Talk podcast for a while now, every year we do this predictions. And so I would love to get your prediction in, and I will next month be giving my predictions for the overall record of the Tar Heels, where I see, trouble, where we could lose a game, slip up, and stuff like that. We'll be going through that full schedule next month. So send in either on Twitter, DM me or something, kind of your overall record, how far the Tar Heels will make it. A lot of people write last year, a lot of people predict national championships for our Tar Heels, but give me your overall record. They're going to go 40-0. They're going to go 39-1, or they're going to go 32-8. Or obviously, we don't know how many games they're going to play because we don't know where they're going to win or how far they're going to go in the ACC tournament, how far they're going to go in the NCAA tournament. So that obviously affects how many games they're going to play in the season. But you can count up regular season, and then obviously you can even tell me. Some people do tell me where they're going to lose in the ACC tournament, where they're going to lose in the NCAA tournament, if they're going to lose, that kind of stuff. So send it in either to my email, unchoopstalk@gmail.com, or DM me at alltarheeldan on Twitter. Or, if you're connected any other way, all those links, ways to get in touch with me, will be in the description of this video or podcast, however you're listening and taking in this podcast. But that'll be there. We'll be doing that next month, and we'd love to get yours in there. So I think that kind of clears up any updates we have. And so we're going to jump into my predictions for the Tar Heel players this year, the 2017-2018 season. So I guess first, starting five is a good place to start. Obviously, Joel Berry's going to start at point guard. Theo Pinson is going to be at the 2 or 3. I think Cam Johnson, and this could change. I think Cam Johnson is going to start at the 3, Luke May at the 4, and then one of the big guys. I don't know enough about the 3 big freshmen to know which one, and it's going to depend in the preseason practice who starts, who gets the minutes, that kind of stuff. And then one of those big guys. The only difference I could see is if Kenny Williams is looking strong coming off his injury, he's not affected by that at all, because he's been in the system, he knows what Roy expects. He could start in front of Cam Johnson at the 2-3, whatever you'd say. I'd say if it's Cam Johnson starting, he'll be the 3, Theo will be the 2. If it's Kenny Williams, I think Kenny will be the 2, Theo will be the 3. But I mean, really, they're interchangeable, so that doesn't matter. But I don't really know who's going to start out those big guys either. But we'll talk about that as we get to these predictions here. So yeah, Joel Berry, of course, going to be the senior leader. Our team will go as he goes. Everybody's going to have him having a huge season, and he easily could. I think he will. I think he will. He will have a big season, stats wise, being a leader of the team, all that stuff. He's going to do well. My concern is with him getting so much attention now with Justin. I mean, Justin took a lot of it off him last year. I think Joel was having the better season. He kind of got hurt there just before ACC play, kind of affected him. But also teams kind of ramped up stopping Joel Berry, and I think that helped Justin. And Justin kind of got some better looks and then got his confidence going. And yeah, we saw where that led to. So without Justin taking that, I mean, obviously someone else can and needs to step up and take some of that pressure off of Joel. But with everybody knows he's going to be our leader. So with him having that extra pressure, does that, start to weigh on him? Does that affect his play? That kind of stuff. And does he kind of step back? Kind of like, you remember Marcus Page, his sophomore year, lights out, let us in, everything. Does he, and then junior year, everybody was on him. He couldn't get the open looks. And I mean, he struggled. He didn't do as well. And again, he still had a great season. He had, every season he had was really good, but from his standards set as a sophomore, it was a step back. And does Joel do that now with the pressure? He's kind of set that expectation now, and everybody, reasonably so, expects him to do that again. So does he step back a little bit because of that, because of the attention, because of the defense being set up to stop him? How does that affect him? So that's my worry. Again, he's going to put up numbers. He's going to do well. He's just too tough of a kid, too smart and good of a basketball player to not put up numbers and to do well. It's just, how does that all work? And that's my concern. Theo, he's got to stay healthy, and hopefully he does. Obviously, that's not something I can predict. That's something I hope for sure. He's got to improve his shot. He's got to improve his handle a little bit. He can still improve his decision making. I think he'll be our assist leader. I think he will, especially without a second point guard. We've been starting, we started Joel and Marcus Page for so long, and then Nate Britt started for some last year. We had 2 point guards on the court. Without that happening, Theo will kind of be that second point guard, handling the ball a lot, doing a lot of that stuff. So I think he will be our assist leader over Joel Berry. But he's, again, hopefully not our turnover leader as well. Hopefully he doesn't shoot the same way he did last year, or last 3 years for that matter. But yeah, so can he improve that? And I think it will be improved. I don't know if it's going to be improved as much as I would like, or as much as Tar Heel Nation would like. again, I think stats wise, it'll look good. He'll be our stats leader or our assist leader, probably our steals leader, our best defender, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I have some concerns, I guess. I have concerns with everybody. Everybody should. Nobody is a perfect basketball player, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot of good teams this year, and again, as we get closer to the season, we'll take a look at that, and obviously predicting how far they're going to go. We'll take a look at that, but there's going to be a lot of teams this year. Hopefully, he's good enough to help lead us to another championship. That's, I guess, what we would want. So Cam Johnson, I think Cam Johnson's our X factor. Can he step in? And he's not going to completely fill Justin Jackson's shoes, but can he get close? Can he knock down shots? Can he defend players? At the end of the year, especially in our tournament run, Justin Jackson was shutting down people and really guarding well. So can he do that? He's got the length. Cam Johnson's like 6'8". He's got the length. He's got the maturity. He's not a freshman coming in. He's got the body for college basketball. He played well at Pitt. It wasn't like he was just a no-namer at Pitt. He played well at Pitt. So can he continue to knock down shots? Can he fit into our system? He's never played in the Carolina system. Can he fit in with that, play defense the way we do compared to the way Pitt does, and just do enough to fill those shoes of Justin Jackson's so we don't drop off that much. Again, I don't think he's going to be Justin Jackson from last year. Justin had a great season, but can he get close enough we don't drop off a ton? And then also with the help of Kenny Williams. Kenny Williams hopefully comes back from his injury. Like I said, lots of confidence and isn't nagging from his injury as far as he's worried about getting hurt again or anything like that. If he's got the confidence, he's got the mentality, and knocks down the shots, we're going to get a lot from. And again, between Kenny and Cam Johnson, maybe we can fill Justin Jackson's shoes and stats and all that stuff. So how does Kenny come back? How does Cam fit in? But I really think Cam Johnson's our X factor. If he can really step in, knock down shots, guard people, that stuff, and then Kenny comes back and is completely healed or over his injury, we're good. So then we get to, let's see, we got our backcourt then going to our four-man Luke May. Luke May, I kind of had the same reservations as I do with Joel Berry. After the way he ended his season, his confidence should be soaring, but do people pay him a little bit more attention? People kind of figure him out, and does he drop off a little bit? He's going to be a stretch four for us, which we've kind of never seen. I think this team is going to be, with as heavy as we are with guards and wings and light as we are on big guys, it's like a team we've never seen coached by Roy Williams at North Carolina. Probably a team we've never seen at North Carolina, period. So that'll be interesting to see. But Luke May will be our stretch four. I don't think we've really ever had one. When we go small, when we went small, which wasn't very often with Roy, was the only thing we saw like this. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to watch, I think. Luke May set up a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. Some people are predicting to have an all ACC season. I don't know that I would predict that. I think he'll be good. He'll get some open looks. But to have a stretch four on a season where we don't have those bigs down low, it's a little bit harder because people can sag off of those big guys and help off those big guys if they're not producing. Now, and we'll get to this, but if those big guys step up and produce for us, then it opens up a lot more for Luke May. It opens up a lot more for our guards, Joel Berry, Theo to drive and stuff like that. So that's kind of the factor that's going to affect our season probably the most. But Luke May can post up. Obviously, he's undersized for that. I think he'll have a decent season. I think stats-wise, again, it'll look good, especially for someone that, came on as a walk-on. To put up numbers like he's going to be putting up will be good. Not that he's going to just blow away and be the ACC Player of the Year, NCAA Player of the Year, anything like that. But for the stats he puts up as a former walk-on and for a guy that just looks like, the guy off streets, is going to be good. So, then it comes to our last starter. And again, it's either going to be Brandon Huffman, Garrison Brooks, or did I say that right? Garrison Brooks? Or is it Harrison Brooks? All right, hold up. I got the roster for me. It's either Brandon Huffman, Sterling Manley, or Garrison Brooks. All right, I did say it right. I know what I'm talking about once in a while. So again, I don't want to predict who's going to start yet because I have not seen any. I haven't even watched many of their highlight films. I don't get into the recruiting. If you want to talk about recruiting, we talked about a little bit last month with Ross Martin of Inside Carolina. Go back and listen to that podcast. We talked about these big guys, and he gave his prediction. I don't really have one. Whoever steps up, we need two of these guys to really step in and produce. As we go through the roster here, as far as forwards, centers, we don't have a center listed, and I don't know. Maybe that's something maybe Meeks wasn't even listed as center last year. I'm not sure, but really big guys. We got Garrison Brooks, Sterling Manley. Walker Miller is 6'10". He's a walk-on. Remember, that's Wes Miller's younger brother. And then we got Aaron Raleigh is 6'6", listed as a forward, and then Luke May and Brandon Huffman. So that's what we got listed as forward. And then Theo is a guard forward listed on here. But we need two of those. So even to back up Luke, we don't have anybody besides these three freshmen. So between the center and backup for power forward, it's got to be those three freshmen, and then going small with a Cam Johnson or a Theo Pinson playing the 4. So we don't have the depth down there. That's what we talked about. So I say we need at least two of these three freshman big guys to step up and produce, give us quality minutes, not just come in and foul people and get in foul trouble and go to the bench. They got to, not that they have to score a bunch, they have to rebound. That's going to be a big question for us this year is, can we rebound, especially after the year we had last year? Can we rebound and then play defense again without fouling? And then what else did I have listed? And then just putting in second chance points. Remember how big offensive rebounds were for us last year. Can they get offensive rebounds and put it back in? And like I said, just give us good minutes. Two of these three freshmen have to do that for us to have the season that we're capable of having, and that Joel and Theo and those guys want to have. So that's our starters. And again, that really covers about 8 guys, because the 5 starters and then whoever doesn't start between Cam and Kenny, and then the 2 freshmen that don't start. So that's about 8 guys out of there. And that's going to be the other thing is what is our rotation? So now we go back to guards. We have 7th Woods coming off the bench as a backup, and as well as Jalik Felton. I think these 2 guys will compete for backing up Theo. Not that they can't play with Joel, or sorry, not backing up Theo, backing up Joel. Not that they can't play together, but it's kind of, does 7th Woods improve that much? And we heard how much he was hurt and how good he looks now in the off season, dunking the ball and getting his athleticism back. Does he have the confidence and then the decision making that goes along with that? Jalik Felton he could be, I see him as a Theo his first couple of years, coming in, giving us a spark, doing something flashy, getting the crowd into it, getting the guys going, that kind of stuff. And that kind of role, at least his first season. He's got a lot of talent, though. He's a tall point guard. Can he come in and maybe it backs up Theo, and 7th backs up Joel a little bit more, because I said Theo's kind of that second point guard we have, since we're not starting 2 point guards. So yeah, that I put those guys kind of together, fighting for backup, and who kind of comes out of there, I guess, with better decision making, taking care of the ball, and producing for us. And we also have Brandon Robinson. Needs to bulk up, needs to get stronger. Hopefully he's been doing that over the offseason. Needs to be more consistent with his shot, needs to be more consistent with his defense. So if those 3 things happen, again, he can come in, give Kenny and Cam Johnson, or if Cam Johnson or Theo's playing the 4, Brandon comes in and gives Kenny some, a break on the wing at the 3. I don't see that he's going to have a huge impact again his sophomore year. Remember last year he got some minutes early on, then we get into the meat of or later on in the non-conference and then the ACC, and he didn't see a lot of playing time. He'd get a couple minutes here and there. I see him maybe getting 5 minutes a game when you average it. Early on, I think Roy will play him a lot, try to get him some confidence and get him going, because we are going to need him next year and his senior year for sure. But I don't know that he's going to get a ton of run this year. And then we also have Andrew Platek, a freshman guard, 6'3" guard out of New York, comes in with kind of a shooter's mentality or a shooter's reputation. So hopefully he can come in. Again, I don't like Brandon. I don't think he's going to get a ton of minutes early on in the non-conference against some of those cupcakes. He will, but then he'll kind of be pushed back if he can come in and knock down shots. And where I kind of worry about him is on the defensive end. Can he keep a guy in front of him? Can he make the right decisions defensively? And if he can do those things as well as knock down shots, he'll continue to get minutes throughout the ACC season and into tournament play. Hopefully he doesn't struggle, and that's kind of my worry, is he struggles kind of like Kenny did his freshman year. Remember, Kenny didn't hit his first three until like into the ACC tournament. So hopefully that's not, getting a few minutes a game doesn't really help you get into a rhythm, especially as a shooter. So hopefully he can come in, have confidence, knock down shots, and then it grows from there instead of having to kind of make one before he starts growing that confidence. I think that pretty much covers everybody that I want to talk about. We didn't talk about Shea Rush. He is a scholarship player now. I don't see him getting again as a sophomore. There's just so many guys on our guards and wings that there's just not a lot of room for him unless there's injuries or foul trouble, something like that. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time. He is listed as a forward as well, since we were talking about that before. I guess he's someone we could go small with at a 4, but if Cam Johnson and Theo Pinson are working, I don't see that he's going to get much play there. So I didn't mention him a lot. I don't think he's going to get a lot of run this season. And then I briefly mentioned Walker Miller, walk on, the younger brother of Wes Miller. Again, I don't see him getting a lot of playing time. Aaron Rowland is a senior. Walk on, again, he'll get walk on minutes. And then we have KJ Smith on the roster, but he is redshirting. He is a transfer. This is Kenny the Jet's son. I guess they're calling him Baby Jet, but he is redshirting this year, and he transferred in from Pacific University, so won't be playing this year. So hopefully we'll see at late night kind of what he can do and what we can expect from him next year. But again, he's in that guard, and we got more guards coming in next year. We're packed. Roy said he would never not have enough point guards again after the whole Larry Drew, Kendall Marshall year, where we didn't have enough. Well, I guess that was also Stillman White year, as you could call it. But and he hasn't. We've always had plenty of point guards, and that's continuing. Now we got to develop some young big guys so we get back to what we're used to, or we got to change our style and play a little bit different. And that to me is what's going to be exciting and interesting about this year. But that's what I got as far as predictions before we wrap up this podcast. Looking ahead to what's coming, since we only do podcasts once a month. At least this is probably the last month I only do once a month. When we get into October, I'll do at least 2, possibly 3. I got a big time guest lined up for October. I don't know when I'm going to do exactly in October. I think hopefully right before Late Night with Roy, I'm going to have a big time guest. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening to this. Got probably the biggest guest that we've had on the podcast coming up. No offense to the past guests, but I don't want to announce it. He said he's good for it anytime that I want. So hopefully he lives up to that, and we got it locked in for the next podcast. But we'll do that. We also got our predictions podcast. Remember to send in your predictions. But we got Late Night with Roy coming up October 13. That's a Friday. It's listed at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then October 20 is the secret scrimmage. I think it's with Memphis again. That's the next Friday, and then the following Friday, October 27, is our lone exhibition game. Man, easy for me to say. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern as well against Barton College. It's listed here that it'll be on the ACC Network Extra, which I think is normally shown on ESPN3 or the Watch ESPN app. So hopefully we'll get to watch that. And then a couple Fridays after that is the home opener against Northern Iowa, November 10 at 7 p.m. Eastern, listed at ESPNU. And yeah, and then we're rolling. Once we get into November, be just about weekly podcasts. That's what I go for. Since there's no game that first week in November, I don't know if I will. I haven't looked that far ahead on the schedule as far as my schedule and all that stuff. But we're ready to get rolling. I'm super pumped for this season. And yeah, before we go, just last few things. I mentioned before about you guys, or you possibly sending in voice call-ins to the podcast that I could play here, either questions, comments, anything like that, about the last game, about upcoming games, or questions that you want me to answer, anything like that. So if you're interested in that, if you have audio, or if you would be willing to send in audio call-ins that I could play, let me know, and we'll work out how we can do that. I got a few things lined up that can be possible. And then also, if there's anybody out there interested in being in a mastermind group for the podcast, giving me suggestions, making sure I don't miss anything, all that good stuff, please email me at unchoopstalk@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter at alltarheeldan. Let's talk about that. I got a couple people lined up, and I'd like to get like one, maybe two more people in there to make this, like I said, I want to ramp this podcast up and do more things. So love to get feedback from you on that, and that's going to be the best way to do it. So let me know if you're interested in that, and you help with the podcast, obviously, what I'm talking about, what's going on, make sure we don't miss anything, and this podcast become that much better. And then along with that, if you're interested in running any social media accounts, whatever you want to talk about or call it, for the podcast or on UNC Hoops, let me know, because I have some set up that I just don't have time to take care of and cultivate content there. So if you'd be willing and capable of doing that, again, either email me or get a hold of me on social media. All those will be in the description of where you're listening to this. So that about does it. Make sure, again, that you're subscribed and you're following, connected with me on social media. Yeah, it's time to ramp up. The podcast is so many places now it can be found. It's on YouTube if you want to watch the video. I'm hoping to do some things with YouTube and with video that you may want to be subscribed there, and not just wherever your podcast. I may be trying to do some video stuff. So yeah, just go on YouTube and search UNC Hoops Talk, and you should be able to find the account there. Follow it there in case I do any video stuff that won't go up on the podcast feed. But otherwise, the podcast is on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Google Play, it's on iHeartRadio, it's on TuneIn, and pretty much anywhere a podcast can be found, the podcast there. So I appreciate your guys' support, sharing it out, liking it, all that good stuff. Like I said, the numbers through the off season have kind of blown me away, because of course people are listening to UNC Hoop stuff during the season. But during the off season, I mean, again, it's blown me away. That's about all I can say. So yeah, connect with me on Twitter or any social media. Let me know that you found the podcast and what you think of it. It doesn't always have to be nice. I'll take constructive criticism as well. Hopefully I do that okay. So yeah, I've rambled on long enough, taken enough of your time. Thanks again for listening. This is the UNC Hoops Talk podcast, episode 123. This is your host, Dan DeWitt, signing off. Always remember, go Heels.